Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Ethereum just confirmed a break below this important area of support in the shorter term, while Bitcoin continues to play out the short-term bearish divergence. But on top of that, we have some major Bitcoin news today, which I'll talk about in just a moment, so definitely stick around. First of all, starting off with the Bitcoin news today, because today another massive whale just bought more Bitcoin. And of course, the whale is the usual suspect, which is MicroStrategy, aka Michael Saylor, because essentially MicroStrategy is Michael Saylor's company. And just recently, MicroStrategy has acquired an additional 5,455 BTC for nearly $150 million at an average price of around $27,000 per Bitcoin. And as of today, MicroStrategy hodls a total of over 158,000 BTC, which they acquired for over $4.6 billion, nearly $4.7 billion, at an average price of around $29,500 per Bitcoin. And so with the current price sitting at approximately 26,000, give or take, obviously MicroStrategy right now is currently sitting in a slight loss, considering 29,500 is their break-even price. But obviously how dollar cost averaging works is essentially the more you buy underneath your break-even price, of course, the more that lowers your break-even price, your entry price. And so essentially the more MicroStrategy buys right now while the price is below 29,500, the sooner they will eventually be back in profits. And now you might be wondering, if Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are buying nearly $150 million worth of Bitcoin, why is that not pumping the price higher? And well, when it comes to big players like this, of course, they usually buy OTC, over the counter, which does not have a direct impact on the Bitcoin price, but it can have an indirect impact on the Bitcoin price later down the road as the OTC dealers, the exchanges, basically start to run out of Bitcoin, with players like this acquiring so much of the supply. And in fact, back in April this year, I tweeted this out, MicroStrategy at that time, back in April, held 140,000 Bitcoin. Of course, right now, once again, they hold closer to 160,000 Bitcoin. But back in April, based on that figure, 140,000, if just 150 companies acquired that same amount of Bitcoin, that's the total 21 million Bitcoin supply gone. But with the updated numbers, with MicroStrategy, of course, acquiring a lot more between April and right now, if just 133 companies try to acquire this same amount of Bitcoin, then of course that is more than the total 21 million Bitcoin supply gone. And that's not even factoring in Satoshi's coins, which is estimated to be around 1 million. That's not factoring in lost coins that are lost forever, in coins where the private keys are basically lost access to. And so when you factor in all of that, it's possibly less than 100 companies. If less than 100 companies try to acquire this same amount of Bitcoin, that basically is not possible. The total amount of supply would be gone, which would basically cause a giant price squeeze to the upside as companies are trying to fight over the last few Bitcoin remaining. And not to mention, we have a Bitcoin halving coming next year, where even less Bitcoin is being produced every day by the miners, so the scarcity even goes higher. And obviously on top of that, we have even bigger players like BlackRock filing for spot Bitcoin ETFs, which could drive demand even higher than what MicroStrategy is doing right now. And so essentially in the shorter term, once again, this has no immediate impact on the price, because MicroStrategy is most likely buying over the counter and not basically market buying on the spot markets. But as I just explained, this could have an indirect, more delayed impact on the price, as there's more of a supply squeeze that happens later on, possibly next year, with the Bitcoin halving coming up soon. But anyway, now taking a look at some Bitcoin charts. This is on the daily Bitcoin chart, and right now, as I'm recording this video, the daily Bitcoin RSI is actually retesting this previous descending line of resistance. And so obviously it would be important for the RSI to actually hold this level and flip it into new support, because in that scenario, obviously that would further confirm the fact that the RSI is trending back to the upsides. But on the other hand, if we actually see a confirmed break back below this previous descending line of resistance, then it's possible that could once again become new resistance again. And in that scenario, that will be a sign of a weakness in the RSI and subsequently for the price of Bitcoin. And so essentially, if that happens, that could potentially help confirm the hidden bearish divergence here on the daily time frame, which could mean the price of Bitcoin could at least drop back into this area of support, which by the way is still sitting in between around 24.3k to 25.3k. And so at least for now, that is still the critical area of support here on the daily Bitcoin chart, which obviously the price at the moment is still trading above. And as for the daily Bitcoin MACD, as of right now, this is actually moving towards a bearish cross, but it is not yet confirmed a new bearish cross. So right now it's still showing very low momentum, as I've said over the last few days. And so essentially based on the MACD itself, we do not really have a strong direction at the moment, at least on the daily Bitcoin chart. And taking another look at that daily Bitcoin RSI, once again, right now, we still technically have a bullish divergence playing out, but we are getting very close to potentially invalidating this bullish divergence, because as you can see right now, the daily Bitcoin RSI is not only retesting this previous descending line of resistance, the RSI is also about to test this ascending line of support. And as I've explained in recent videos here on the channel, if we actually see a confirmed breakdown in the RSI below this ascending line of support or below this previous low, forming new lower lows, then essentially that would be an invalidation signal for the bullish divergence, helping to invalidate the bullish divergence on the daily Bitcoin chart. And therefore, if we invalidate the bullish divergence with a breakdown in the RSI, that can help to activate this hidden bearish divergence on the daily Bitcoin chart, because once again, we still have lower highs in the price of Bitcoin and higher highs in the Bitcoin RSI. So that is known as a hidden bearish divergence, which is a trend continuation pattern in the bearish direction. But once again, in order to become more confident in that bearish pattern, we ideally need to see an invalidation, a confirmed break to the downside for this bullish divergence. Basically, get rid of the bullish divergence and then go ahead with the hidden bearish divergence if we see a breakdown in the RSI. But if you're zooming into a smaller time frame, looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, of course, we still have an active bearish divergence here in the somewhat shorter term. And so once again, as I've been saying since all the way back up here, we're still due to see some potentially either bearish price action or sideways price action. Basically, we should not really be expecting a lot of bullish momentum, at least in the short term here, while this more bearish divergence is active. Because once again, as usual, a bearish divergence usually plays out in the form of either choppy sideways price action, if not a pullback in the price of Bitcoin, which is exactly what we are seeing as expected. And so essentially, this is acting as a bit of a pause from the bullish divergence on the daily time frame, unless we actually see a breakdown here in the RSI on the daily chart, which means the bullish divergence is over on the daily time frame. And in that scenario, looking at support and resistance in the short term, we still have the golden pocket area of support sitting in between around 25.8 to 25.9k here on the 4-hour Bitcoin chart. But in a more bearish scenario, if that support does not hold up, then we also have the 78.6% Fibonacci level of support at just above 25.4k. And below that level, we should also find some support at around these lows, sitting at around 24.9k, close to 25k. And as for short-term resistance, right now we could find a bit of resistance at approximately 26.2k. And above that level, we should also find some resistance at this previous support, which we just saw a break below over the last one day, which is sitting at around 26.5k. And so once again, at least in the short term, that would be the more important level of resistance to pay attention to. And as for that potential head and shoulders pattern, which I talked about over the last couple of days, even though it is a bearish pattern, which we are now breaking to the downsides, technically the head and shoulders pattern never fully completed because we did not see a successful right shoulder actually form before the break to the downsides. And so even though breaking below support is of course bearish either way, we technically do not have an active head and shoulders pattern with an active bearish price target. And so instead, we just need to pay attention to support levels to the downsides. And obviously, once again, we need to watch out for that potential bullish divergence coming close to invalidating on the daily time frame. But anyway, now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily ETH to US dollar chart, and the price of ETH is continuing the rejection from this important area of resistance sitting in between around 1620 to 1660. And so once again, while the price is below that important resistance, still forming lower highs and lower lows, technically the trend at the moment on the daily time frame is still more bearish than bullish. And as for the daily Ethereum price oscillators, first of all, the daily daily Ethereum MACD is still showing very low momentum, but it is starting to cross in the more bearish direction, which means potentially some more bearish momentum is beginning to build up. But right now, once again, we still have very low momentum. And as for the daily Ethereum RSI, obviously this bullish divergence is technically still active, but it is getting closer towards invalidating, because if you're looking at the price and the RSI, first of all, if the RSI breaks to the downside below this ascending line of support or below this previous low, that would be an invalidation signal for the bullish divergence. And also, if we see a breakdown in the price below this previous low right here, so below around 1550 with daily candle closes below that level, then in that scenario, if the RSI is still forming higher lows, then we would simply have to reconfirm a new bullish divergence on the daily time frame. And so that's why I said right now the price is moving closer towards potentially invalidating this bullish divergence, which obviously, if that actually plays out, that would be a bearish signal on the daily time frame, potentially pointing towards the resumption of the bearish trend here on the daily time frame. Because obviously for the last 1 to 2 weeks or so, basically since this bullish divergence confirmed, we have seen a bit of a pause, a slight relief from the bearish trend. But obviously, as I've said on the channel, the price of ETH never actually confirmed a massive bullish reversal, because we did not confirm any successful higher highs and higher lows in the price or breakout well above important resistance. And if you're zooming into the shorter term, looking at short-term support and resistance, just recently, only a few hours ago, we actually saw a break below the golden pocket, which is sitting in between around 1578 to around 1583. And so right now, the support we need to pay attention to is the 78.6% Fibonacci level of support, sitting closer towards around 1560. And below that level, we should also expect some support at these lows, sitting at approximately 1530. And as for resistance, we could now expect some resistance at this golden pocket, which I just mentioned. But if we see a breakout back above around 1580, then in that case, we should also find some resistance just here at approximately 1.6k, which is where we found resistance over the last few days. But either way, whether or not the price is bullish, bearish, or simply chopping around sideways, you can still make money in crypto by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money if the price is bullish or bearish using AI, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.